This is a download from BFM 89.9, the business station.
Good morning, this is Freda Liu. You're listening to Raise Your Game. I've got Hetal Doshi from Psych joining us again. Of course, she's here for our series, and it's about organisational transformation, the butterfly effect. Last month, she was on, and we talked about what is organisational transformation and what it means to organisations when we talk about mental health, because a large part of that affects us because most of us go to work. And this month, we're going to talk about how leaders create madness during organisational transformation. Madness, get ready. Maybe we can start off with a refresher on what is organizational transformation.
Thanks, Freda, for having me again. It's going to be, I guess, a very sensational topic of sorts. But if you actually think about it, most people, when you ask them, how's it going, to be like, oh, it's crazy. It's crazy. There's absolute madness going on. So I guess the title is just a reflection of the real truth. And so what is organizational transformation? It is basically radical shifts in an organizational structure, business model, and also major reshuffles that will take place in the organization. I think the biggest mistake that companies make is that sometimes they're just going through small little fine-tuning, they're going through a little step change, but they call it transformation. No need to call it that, unless it's a huge radical thing. Because when you use that word, you're obviously already going to start scaring people. So just be careful about how we use the word transformation in organizations.
Okay, I think it does get people worried when you hear the word transformation. It can be. I know they start off with it wanting to be positive, but it gets this people thinking, am I going to lose my job? Right? In this day and age, right?
Spot on.
And I think on top of what you were saying, that this whole idea about madness and what's going on around the world with the virus and things like that adds on this unseen stress, right? With what's going on as well. But also, I guess organizations that don't go this transformation, we hear organizations like Nokia or BlackBerry, which probably needed an organizational transformation in terms of business model and such.
Yeah, and they probably didn't go through it at the right time, or they didn't do it in the right way as well. So I do agree. I think the majority of organizations are actually going through some major radical changes or transformation. Just be careful of the languaging, I guess. Yeah.
And if the whole idea is, I think people want to go through it because of these examples of companies that didn't transform and then disappeared.
That's true.
Yeah. So, so the way, but when we... Is there another way of saying it other than transformation?
I'm not saying whether you shouldn't use the word transformation. Just speak the truth, meaning if there is a radical movement, then you can call it transformation. But if it is a step change, or just, say, for example, an organization just wants to bump up by 20% the next year, then just say we're here to keep progressing.
Okay.
Yeah. So...
you're saying this because you're an organizational psychologist, and a psychologist at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So the words we say carry a lot of weight.
Absolutely. Business leaders don't have too much time to communicate, but when they do, you want to be able to create the right impact, not the wrong repercussions. Right. Yeah. So just be careful about it.
I guess, when do you think, when you talk about organizational transformation, does this happen? During mergers?
Yeah. Digitalization is definitely transformation. In some instances, you can use the word transformation. In some instances, it's not really. It's just a new system that goes in, which is something that you would have done 5 years ago or 10 years ago. And we never used the word digital transformation then. It's just a new system or new way of doing things, whatever it is. So I guess digitalization, you've got mergers, acquisitions of sorts. Say, for example, like Axiata and Telenor, there was this potential opportunity for a merger. And then, so that was the idea of transformation, that potential transformation that never really took place. And then it didn't take place. And then there was another transformation. So it's like a reverse transformation that had to take place after that. So confusing for employees. I hope I don't get into trouble for saying this, but it's almost like a couple saying they're going to get married, and then
they didn't get married,
and then they tell everyone they're getting married, and then they don't get married, and then everyone's like, "But why didn't we get married? Now we have to, we have to deal with this too."
We were not even seeing each other.
Exactly. What happened over there? So it's this news that goes out and the communication that goes out that actually, maybe there's a way to, not communicate or communicate with lesser intensity, because the messaging that when it goes out, you may use one word, but the person's impact or the impact on the person will be potentially 10 times more. You've also got things like privatization, IPOs, new business models, new business altogether a new business. You've got major reshuffles in leadership. That's actually not transformation, but it feels like a major transformation.
Okay.
Because the rumors, the gossips, the, who's in which gang or camp, all of that is like a big transformational movement that is required. You've got retrenchments, you've got new markets that you're going to, or removal from existing markets, like a lot of the banks are coming up from different countries. And then also abrupt seizures. So suddenly, like WeWork, in one part of the world, they no longer exist and there's a whole big turmoil. But on the other hand, in Malaysia, for example, they're kind of growing.
Right.
So what is that about? Yeah, so these are all basically transformational experiences that the organization is going through, or people feel that they're going through some kind of major transformation.
Right. And these are things that you need to have that conversation with the employees, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right?
Definitely be careful about the conversation. Make the conversation the best conversation ever.
Okay, and how you word it and all that, right?
Absolutely.
Do people go mad during organizational transformations?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Unless you haven't been involved in making the decision, when the decision is laid out, there is some, psychologists call this cognitive dissonance, meaning what you're telling me about why the organization should change has no relevance to the way that I've been thinking about how things should be. So now what you're telling me to do is different from how I feel and what I'm thinking. And there's this dissonance. And this dissonance causes this immediate
discomfort,
stress, absolute immediate stress in the body, just like how you create this building. But within the building, there are all these cracks that are going on and it needs to be looked after. So this dissonance really... So say, for example, there was a client that was saying that, okay, we all need to... So it's an organization. And a lot of them normally, when it comes to customer service, it used to be very transactional customer service, meaning a customer wants something, you go and give it to them. But these days, customer service needs to be transformational or relational, meaning you want something, I'm not just going to give it to you, I'm going to have a conversation with you about it. And then we're going to think about how to upsell, cross-sell, multi-sell, all kinds of sell. But it's no longer transactional. It is now a relational thing that has a huge increase in potential value. So when organizations say, for example, they make the announcement, okay, customer service, you can no longer just be transactional. Now we need you to become more relational. We need you to upsell, cross-sell, multi-sell. People are like, but the company is doing well. We've been doing well. The profits haven't declined whatsoever. So in some cases, it is a prediction of potential losses in an organization, but is not being experienced right now.
Right.
But the organization uses the word transformation. And people are like, but we are doing well. Our sales is going fine. We haven't had any major losses. We're probably market leaders as well. So why are you using this terminology? And why are you saying that we're not being successful over here? And these are potentially like salespeople, customer service people. And they can be quite aggressive themselves. So then there is this huge backlash in the organization. And this creates...
unnecessary backlash.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because first and foremost, you're telling me to change when I have been kind of adding value to the company and making the company successful. And one of the major reasons why people, in my personal opinion, get pissed off is because of something called the Hawthorne effect. Hawthorne effect is basically when you give me the visibility and you give me attention, I love you. But now you are no longer paying attention to me and all the things that I have done for you. And so there is this sense of, how come I'm no longer the superstar that that everything I did was for you, and now you're no longer giving me the attention anymore, and you're telling me that I'm not good enough.
Right.
And so this also creates this sense of betrayal and this further increased sense of, maybe I didn't think I was good enough, but now I know you think I'm not good enough.
Okay.
And so that creates this real uproar. And imagine one individual feels that way. They don't really explain it in that manner, but they're just not happy. Right. And then you have 2,000 people, 3,000 people, 4,000 people beginning to feel that way. Just with one piece of communication.
Right. And then what does that mean to the organization? I don't want to work so hard for you anymore. What are the repercussions of that?
So if an organization is selfish, actually they just want what they want, right? Basically, in simple words, you don't get what you want anymore.
Okay.
You don't get what you want because you haven't taken people through an experience that gives them the attention that they want, the attention that they deserve as human beings, and you don't take them through the experience that you've actually gone through to be able to come up with that decision.
Okay, all right. Yeah. So in an example, right, where you talked about, right, the before the Hawthorne effect. So what should be done prior?
Yeah. So, like when you launch war or when you take part in Olympics, there is major preparation about how you're going to win this war, right? Simple. Organizations need to go through psychological preparation about who the opponents are. In this case, the real enemies are the employees. You have external enemies, but you also have internal enemies. I'm not saying that employees are enemies, right. But according to Sun Tzu, then they would be considered as potential backlashes to what it is that you want to win. So think about how you want them to be part of the winning. So one of the things that we have done, I think we've done extremely successfully, is something called "What would you do if you were the CEO?" So it is actually to put the CEO in a very vulnerable situation and just get them to go through an experience to say that, hey, as a CEO, these are the numbers that I'm looking at. When you look at these numbers, maybe just take them through a 1 hour. So you have a 1 hour town hall, but you can ask them the question. These are the numbers that you're seeing over here. What would you do if you were the CEO? And Freda, what happens when you do this is they begin to synthesize.
Okay.
And make sense of what they would do, because now they are in this power position, right? Because they're putting on a hat of power. And people I'm not saying people like the power, but people like to feel empowered.
They
not
feel
helpless.
Empowered and in control.
Included.
Yeah.
And included in that process. So what happens is that the CEO asks, so we kind of lay out what that 1 hour conversation would look like. We ask them, okay, this is what's going on with the company. How do you feel about the pain of the company? And they're like, the company's in pain, or the company is going to face more threats, blah, blah, blah. So that emotional connection begins to happen, that the organization is a combination of human beings that are suffering.
Right.
Not an entity. And then we ask them like, okay, what would you do if the CEO? And then they actually, everyone is super pandai. Everyone will already say these things that you want them to do. So they say, I think definitely digitalization is important. Definitely we need to expand our core. Definitely we need to innovate. Definitely blah, blah, blah. And they will say definitely.
Okay.
Not even like maybe.
Right. And because it comes from them, they feel like as if they had a say in it, right? Yeah. And you probably do want to listen to them as well. It's a very interesting thought about what you just mentioned, because a lot of times we go through a lot of these announcements and the thoughts of the employees are not heard, right? And it's something as simple as a town hall for an hour to say, what would you do if you were the CEO?
Yeah.
And already that's sort of like, so this is happening.
Yeah.
So this is a situation the CEO is facing. At least they're asking for our opinion.
Yeah.
And the moment you just go through that simple exercise, because I'm thinking like, my goodness, HR must have a headache, right? But all the time. But at least if you can just address that by a town hall,
absolutely,
it already alleviates some of the fears.
Yes.
We'll continue our conversation about how leaders create madness during organizational transformation, also help them be sane. This is the butterfly effect. I'm speaking to Hetal Doshi from Psych. This is Race Again, BFM 89.9.
Building First World Malaysians. BFM 89.9, the business station.
You're listening to Race Again. Good morning. This is Freda Liu. I'm speaking to Hetal Doshi from Psych. This is part of our series talking about the butterfly effect, how leaders can create madness during organizational transformation. Hetal joins us once a month. And we talk about this topic because it is the whole idea about mental wellness in organizations, and how that, when we talk about transformation, everyone's talking about digital transformation and the like, and it does cause stress in the workplace, right? And it causes stress, and these stress you take home.
Yes, absolutely. And then from home, you take it back to the workplace.
Okay, so you were saying that there's lack of clarity. When you don't tell people about changes, whether it's a new business model, whether it's a new business altogether, mergers, acquisitions, they feel a lack of clarity, a sense of betrayal that you didn't know about what's going on. Your Hawthorne effect. Yes, right, and. You talk, and I said that, when you take this at home, what is the impact of this on work and life?
So the major impact honestly, there's so many. There is, one of the things that happens is reputational damage as well. So, there are leaders, say, for example, in a reshuffle, where organizations used to be very heavy at the top. Now they're becoming a little bit more flat at the top, which means that someone who could look after the entire Asia Pac, and he had people reporting under him. Now, the people reporting under him are at equal level because they need to have more attention in specific regions. So say, for example, in a situation like this, when the person realizes that their subordinates are now at equal power as them, they obviously begin to sulk and wonder what happened. So one of the things that happens when it comes to organizational changes is reputational loss. This person, at that point in time when they're given the announcement, they can't hold themselves well. And everybody begins to say, oh, this person can't accept it, sour grapes, blah, blah, blah. It's not that the person is that way, but they haven't been allowed to process what is going on. So reputational damage in organizational changes or transformation is a huge, huge, huge issue. And sometimes it comes out in media and stuff like that. And the poor person who may have been really working very hard is now in a position where everything that they have done no longer is of value or looked at upon in a certain level of light required. Reputational losses is one of the things, but there are many other things. I've had leaders who've had major, major health issues when it comes to organizational transformation. So within the first month or 2 months, they get like kidney issues. They get one of the most unique things that I heard about was arrhythmic heartbeat. So the person's heartbeat was like doubling at a frequency that is 2 times more than an average person.
Wow.
We've had divorces on the rise. We've had people sleeping in different rooms altogether. You've got people who fight more with their children and, all kinds of things at home. I think one of the things that bugs me the most about organizational transformation is its impact on family. Imagine every other organization is going through it. Husband and wife working, both of them probably going through high level of stress at work, both of them coming home demanding that both of them should be more supportive. And that really creates a crack in the relationship. And how do you see this today? In Malaysia, the statistics is 1 in 3 are experiencing depression, stress, and anxiety. In Malaysia, 1 in 2 marriages are collapsing. And can you imagine if you are a child, and this is in no way something that I'm saying about divorces. I don't care for it. I think, if you do or you don't, it doesn't matter. It is your prerogative. But I think the fracture in relationships will impact the next generation. And this next generation then becomes leaders in organizations. And they would have had a history in their lives where people that they love, the relationships that were supposed to be the most important, had a fracture. And if they don't process it well, when they become leaders, fractured relationships become normalized. And then what happens to the next generation and the next generation after that? So for me, organizational transformation is like human transformation. And if it is done well, and it can really be done well, then you get a stronger and stronger future generation. But when it's not done well, we're actually impacting human experiences of the next generation.
Society, Malaysian society as a whole.
Absolutely. And family is the building block of society.
Right. So what can leaders do differently going forward?
Okay, so 3 things, and Freda, I definitely would like to cover. It's not just leaders creating madness in organizations. Employees do as well. It's not really about anybody wanting to create the madness, but the situation is so chaotic that
our cortisol goes up.
Absolutely.
It's the flight or flee,
Exactly.
survival mode, or we freeze,
Absolutely. The threats, the perception of threat increases so highly that madness is inevitable in that situation. So number 1, I think organizations can really and should really benefit. There is not a single organization in Malaysia right now, and we're trying to create a breakthrough in that is keen to. So I know an organization that has invested 10 billion in product research and development for profits. But I don't know of a single company in Malaysia that is investing even I don't know, just a small amount of money on human research and development, meaning in transformation, you could have a million things that you do to pull people in that direction, or you could have one singular thing. Why would you not want to create some kind of research and understand how best to really, really have a focused single initiative that can create a movement? Why would you not want to research about that before you embark on all kinds of initiatives? Think about it, like Facebook doesn't have any training or development, barely. But what they've done is that they've done enough research to understand that human beings don't need to be trained. They don't. They just need to be put in an environment where they actually want to create their own learning. So what they did was they created an entire ecosystem of incentives and a way to push people to want to learn on their own.
Right.
And instead of paying people to attend training with no real benefits, they actually created a whole ecosystem where people wanted to do it on their own.
Gamified it.
Absolutely. Kind of not only gamified it, but they understood the psychology of how to create hunger in human beings, as opposed to how do you force somebody to do something about it. And these are companies that kind of invest in psychological research, to be able to nudge people in a particular direction in the fastest period of time. Why would you not want to do that? Economics do it, military does it, sports does it. And if you look at the recent elections, I'm not saying that it is the right thing, but they used a lot of data to understand how do you create precise movement in parties as well. So obviously all of this has to be done in an extremely ethical manner. And obviously psychologists who are unethical should be put behind bars and will be put behind bars because we are all held up to the highest ethical standards. But really it is about studying human behavior, and there are no companies in Malaysia yet that have started to use this intelligence to be able to drive human behavior, which is the number one barrier to what an organization actually wants, which is the butterfly.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. The second one?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the second one. So apart from research, definitely a lot of experimentation. So one of the things that we have done extremely well is, instead of telling people about the organizational transformation, the CEO and the leadership team. So the CEO actually tells the leadership team, this is what I think the organization should be doing in terms of transforming the organization. And it's only 15 minutes. So he only has 15, or she has only 15 minutes to actually build a case of transformation. So why are we doing it? What are we going to be doing? How are we going to be doing it? What is my commitment to you? So they have 15 minutes. It's almost like a TED-like kind of thing. And everybody gives him not feedback, but a reaction. Feedback, actually, in my opinion, Freda, is not important at all. Reactions are something that you need to pay attention to, and followership is something you need to pay attention to. So no need for leadership, no need for feedback. Listen to followership and listen to reactions. So the rest of them just give him or her a reaction about whatever he or she has just said. And that person goes back and thinks about how to co-create with the leadership team a compelling message that actually makes not only emotional sense, but business sense. And the other 9, say, for example, if there are other 9 in a leadership team, they do the same thing as well. And basically, they pick the best leader who's able to tell the story that creates the best kind of reaction, or the reaction that they want, and increases the number of followership. So you will not believe it. Many a times, it's not the CEO who gets the win in a competition like this. It could be someone that is least... You would just not imagine that is a person who would be able to create the most compelling message. But the idea behind this is then it sets the CEO up for success with regards to how do I build this story and launch this transformation going forward? And how do I get all on board, meaning my entire leadership team is on board as well? And the best part about it is that when they make the launch, they've already solved a couple of things. Number 1, the story is compelling. Number 2, my whole leadership team is on board. I'm not going to get drama with them or from them. And number 3, we all show up in that launch, for example, and all the employees who think that there may be a fracture in the leadership team and that they can play with us, they won't do it because they can see the strength in numbers as well. So definitely what I would call a design to assess reactions and followership would be very important before you launch your transformation as well. And the third thing, obviously, is prepare.
All right.
Yeah.
Just like getting ready for war.
Yes, in the best way possible.
In the best way possible. Getting ready for battle.
Yes.
I'm here with Hetal Doshi from Psych talking about organizational transformation. She'll be back again next month. You've been listening to Race Again, BFM 89.9.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To find more great interviews, go to bfm.my or find us on iTunes. BFM 89.9, the business station.